Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of wholesome Hammer, where we explore the hobby, the game, and the lore of Warhammer 40k. We're your hosts, Nurgle Snurgle and Blushing Noise Marine. If you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to give us a follow. We'd appreciate it. And we've also launched a Patreon, so if you're a fan of what we do and want to support us, you can find the link in the episode description. And this week, we're talking about how to find your unique style when you hobby. Now, I picked a Tau quote because I haven't actually done it yet.
I saw the name and I was like, I don't know how to pronounce that. I hope that is a Tau thing because that is... my brain can't comprehend the lack of vowels.
Well, there are the apostrophes.
There's
replacements. There's two in a lot of syllables. So the quote is, "What are secrets with no one to know them?" And it's Shazo Earth.
Is that how you say it?
I have no idea, but it's R''TH, and that's what I'm going with. And I thought it was somewhat fitting because you often see, when people are kind of starting their hobby journey, it almost like, for some people, they almost feel embarrassed or they don't have the confidence. Mm-hmm. And realistically, everyone has their own unique perspective. So, don't let your secrets be unknown.
I didn't think I'd like something from Tau, but yeah, I do like that quote. Because is it even a secret if nobody knows?
Exactly.
And everybody will start a secret with, "Can you keep a secret?"
Exactly. But yeah, so, and I think there is a point in talking about this because, we talked about it a little bit on the pre-show. Like, I am someone who is very recently discovering that maybe I have a bit of hobby confidence.
Yeah.
And part of it was from finding my, style and finding how, not necessarily how I can paint better, but how I can paint more me.
Yeah. And you think you found it?
I think I'm on a path. I'm on a journey to finding it.
You're trusting the path that you're on.
Yeah.
And wherever it leads you, you'll get there.
We have a GT this weekend. Yep. I've been painting more recently, and I'm also enjoying painting more recently, which is usually that pre-GT rush is the week before, just let me get them battle ready. And
week before, you mean the night before for some people.
I'm too old. I'm too old. But I feel like I went definitely beyond battle ready, and it was I was maybe pushing myself on some of these models and really had a blast.
Okay. How do you paint? What is your scene when Laura is deep in her hobby flow?
Okay, so because of my eyes, I can't actually hobby for that long. I'm lucky to get an hour and a half.
That's still great. That is wonderful.
So it's more of a hey, I have some free time right now.
Yep.
I'm gonna go paint and fill up my water glass.
Okay.
Or my brushes, and then I go paint.
Do you set the table? You make a clean slate? Do you clean it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Do you put music on? Do you put a podcast on? Do you put a show on?
No.
Silence.
Yes.
Whoa.
I have tried putting things. Actually, when I first got back into Warhammer and was painting again, I used to put on Wrath's Reach in the background, and I would realize that I was not paying attention at all to it. It would be 45 minutes later, and a whole other turn had gone by, and I'd be I don't even remember who's playing right now. So I get a little engrossed.
I
kind of get lost. Yeah.
Of course, that's what we all do, and that is the flow state that is a great place to get to.
But I know
you intrigue me by this silence. So it's just Laura's thoughts.
I mean, actually, honestly, my stream of consciousness actually slows down when I paint, so it's actually kind of nice to feel the silence.
Okay, so you feel the peace.
Yeah. I mean, I also I'm painting so close to if I'm using a magnifying lens, literally my eye socket is on the lens.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, there's not really a lot of like room for me to not be thinking about it.
Your sole focus is on this miniature and to get the
Yeah.
paint on it.
Well, I think that's probably why, like, when I say like hour and a half at most, like most times I'm painting is maybe half an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah, I guess that's still great. Because I think that's like the average amount of time that people usually have to paint. Like, people don't have the 5 to 6 hours to paint. It's like a quick session, drop some paint on, good to go. And you find that you do this for every paint session.
Well, when you don't have a lot of setup, yeah, it's just kind of like, let's go do this.
I love it. I love hearing other people's like.
What's your ritual?
Depends. Like, depends on the project. Sometimes I already have the paints on the desk ready to go. But my preferred is like to have like a clean desk, a new wet palette with new paper towel and parchment. Maybe I'll have a drink. Maybe I get my paints together, what I'm going to do. I think about what I'm going to do on the model, and then I go from there. And I gotta have something on, whether that is watching a TV show, listening to music, or listening to like
the Chaos Divided 40K podcast.
Yes that. I'm gonna plug something. Not sponsored or anything, but I did discover this new show on YouTube. It's called Northern Exile, and he does a lot of like hobby nightmares, and I've been kind of like slightly addicted to listening to it while I paint.
Okay.
Because like he has like his devoted listeners send in stories, and I don't agree with like everything he says. He's pretty vulgar, so if you're quite young, do not listen to this to it on he's on YouTube. But it's just like it's interesting to hear about other people's stories when it comes to the hobby, and he also shares like a lot of like good ones too, and he gives some advice. But I've been doing that. So anyways, I need something like with audio. I am losing my voice. If you can't tell, I do have the Snurgles rot. I am getting over it. And this is just the last tail end. But yes, I need something. I think I've always grown up with like listening to something, whether I had like headphones, listening to music or anything like that. So I need that to get me into the zone. And sometimes if I'm listening to music and I'm really grooving, I'm like kind of like wiggling in my chair just and singing along. So that's my
awesome
painting process.
I'm not so sophisticated. I am jankhammer to my core. It's quiet. I accidentally turned the ceiling fan on before starting today, and then I realized I was doing basing and was like, I should turn that off. So that was the closest to having something even like on in the room. Actually, you know what? I turned the TV on to like put something on, and then just didn't.
So you're telling me that you don't listen to the Chaos Divided podcast while you paint?
I do not.
I hear that's the most favorable way to listen to our podcast.
My goodness. You know what? That is the hobbying while listening, I think, is the most common comment we get. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, to talk a little bit about like finding that style, and I you know what? I think setting the stage.
Yeah.
Setting your
the
space.
Desk or your hobby space. Yeah.
Yeah, I do fortunately have my own like desk that has helped. Like I don't have to set up. But yeah, for anyone who's like looked on my Instagram, whenever I take a picture and it's just like scattered stuff in the background, that is what my desk looks like all the time. There's no like, I don't tidy it up for pictures. I don't tidy it up to hobby. It's there's like, yeah, it's that's how I roll. But honestly, like a lot of the beauty in Warhammer is finding your own style. Like,
yeah,
and there's so much room for it. Like even if you're like into the lore and you want to create like, you know, a specific legion, a specific chapter, a specific whatever, there's so much room to still add your own little unique flair to it. You know, so literally the reason why there's like successor chapters, and there's, you know, on this Chaos Space Marine side, there's different war bands, and there's, you know, different dynasties and septs and, you know, hive fleets, is so that like you can create whatever you want. So you can follow, you know, a specific paint scheme, but make it your own, or change it slightly, or find your like very specific thing that you want. So you can start with that as like a template and then like change it.
Yeah. And it's so wonderful to see, like, it's an easy explanation of what you're painting. You can be like, because it's this, instead of having to pay for yours. Yes, you're following kind of the guidelines of Emperor's Children colors. You are putting your own spin on it, and it is.
I mean, I kind of do a weird blend of like Heresy Emperor's Children and like mod and 40k Emperor's Children is like how I started, and at this point it's just like completely off the rails.
Could you imagine how boring it would be if Warhammer was only like, you have to paint it this way? Like, could you imagine just how
you just offended every Ultramarines like player out there that has their like blue boys.
But just imagine, all the Space Marines can only be blue with gold trim, and it can only be a certain way.
No, and you know what? I like that the rules have changed so that it isn't a chapter anymore. Like it's not a legion, it's not a dynasty. Like it's, you know, they're moving more towards like, this is this type of detachment.
Yeah.
So you're even like less locked in than you used to be.
Yeah.
Like in earlier editions, like you had to have them painted like the chapter in order to use those rules.
Yeah.
Like, and the further away we get from that, the better, I think.
100%.
Make your Great Unclean Ones blue. Nurgle doesn't have to just be like olive green drab.
No. Taking inspiration from nature. He was inspired by cuttlefish. I know I've said it before, but like, I even went deeper into the thought. I think I said this at Mini Wargaming, but it was the idea is like, yes, my Nurgle, my demons are the brightest ever, but it's almost like because they are in the garden, and when you're in the garden, you're full of like life and brightness. But when you go into other worlds, that's when you start to get kind of you lose your color, and that's where they get greener and greener and
even Nurgle demons don't like that 9 to 5. They're just like, they'd rather be at home just hanging out. They're like,
maybe that's why I feel so connected with them. I feel like you, Nurgle.
They break into the material plane and they're just like, oh, this is work.
Yeah.
This is like, they're like punching the clock.
Yeah. I think I even did, this is a long time ago, but I did an AI prompt, and I think I put modern Nurgle, and it was like a really bad type of Nurgle demon in a house with a wife just on the chair, just like looking at a newspaper.
Okay, I weirdly also I like spent a day like playing with like AI at one point, and I did like Slaanesh as like a corporate executive, and it was like the same, like, you know, like big desk like Slaanesh, but then just like wearing like a suit and tie and just like very like displeased, and I was just like, so I'm glad we shared that thought. Yeah, and I honestly, like, you know, talking about that, like, there's no right or wrong way to paint an army.
Never.
And like, you will enjoy it more if you free yourself from those thoughts.
100%. Yeah.
And like, it's not just like, oh, you have to use these specific paints, but even just like the technicalities of how you paint also don't have to match how everyone else paints.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't like edge highlighting, you don't have to edge highlight.
No. It's all about feeling comfortable with that brush and letting it speak for you.
So now I'm gonna ask you, and this is I feel like you've talked about this before, but I want the inside scoop. How did you find like what would become Snurgle's Garden?
I still feel like I'm trying to find my way.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Because, like, I have always thought this, even from the very beginning of, like, I would ask myself, what is my style? And I could never, ever answer that for myself. Even now, I don't answer. In the mini wargaming video, I say, like, the brighter the better. Like, I think that's the guideline I kind of went with, was just I loved color, and I just splashed it onto my models. As for a style, I could never ever tell you. I could never categorize what my style is, or where it belongs, or I don't know if there is an answer for that. If you could tell me the answer, that'd be great, because that would free me up so much. But
I think it'd be too limiting for you to have a style.
I think so. I don't think I like to put myself in a box, and I said this the other day. There's just like about comfort boxes, that it is more freeing to come out of your comfort box, because then you realize how small that box really is, and how much potential there is. And it's just like it's that ball and chain that's completely cut off, and it's like, oh, I can do everything and anything that I want. That is, yes, that can be very daunting, but it's less restrictive than being in the comfort zone.
It's true.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much in this in the box of, like, if I want to try it, I'm gonna do it, and then go from there. Like last night, I started painting hexagons on a cape, and like I was just losing my mind, because like I didn't know how to start, how to do it, but I just wanted to do it and just wanted to try. And I trusted the process, continued on, and I'll work with it. Like, will it look perfect? Absolutely not. But I don't want to deprive myself from trying it. And that's all I've ever done with my paintings. It's just try something. And it's surprising what you can do when you just let yourself try.
That's good. That's good advice.
Okay, how did you find your way?
I feel like, well, and I've talked about this too before, but I think it's really, it was kind of the limitations of my skills very quickly ran up against like what I wanted to see my models look like. Like it was like I was disappointing myself, and it just kind of happened that like we were talking about this on the pre-show actually. I bought a used rhino from someone who had painted it like for World Eaters, and I was like, I'm just gonna like debase this.
Yeah.
I was like, rather than trying to repaint this, rather than stripping it, I was like, I want to figure out, I don't want to do that. I was like, I'm gonna just like ruin this and
you're gonna add to it.
But like in like the most like Emperor's Children, like we stole this rhino and we're just gonna do what we want with it.
Love that.
And I ended up really liking it. Like as I was doing it, I was having fun and I was like enjoying it, and I was enjoying the process, and I was like excited to see what the next step was gonna look like. Which for me was like a brand new feeling with hobbying.
It's warm, isn't it?
It's interesting to be like, I want this to be immediately dry because I want to move on. Because I want to see what the next step after that's going to look like. Like, it's like that. I was never excited to see a model finished.
Yeah.
And so
now look, you've got a Venom Crawler done. You've got Shalaxi on the go.
I know. Well, I was looking at the Land Raider that I haven't finished and realizing there's a few more things I need to do with it. But even just like realizing that there's enough coherent idea in my head that I can start to see what the next steps look like.
Yeah.
Even though, again, they don't look super coherent, but there is like a method to my madness, and there is like something I want it to look like, and I can actually accomplish that.
Yeah, because you know
which is
what your
really
skill
cool.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the technique matches my ability,
Mm-hmm.
but I can still make something that looks the way I want it to look. And
Yeah.
that is like a cool thing to be able to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're
To,
touching on that, and I've struggled with this many times where it's just like the questioning of what it's gonna look like can
mm,
be very heavy on the mind while you're
yeah.
painting, being like, I wonder what this is gonna look like, blah 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 blah. And it for me, it feels like it's, like I said, like it's heavy on my heart and it's heavy on my mind, and that can be crippling. But the more you do, and the more you've done things, and the more you see what your abilities are, the easier that becomes.
And I
And
think that's the big thing is like finding out the way that makes you feel good about what
yeah,
you're doing.
yeah,
So much more will come out of that
mm-hmm,
than trying to like, like we had Mike on
yeah,
and from Watch It Paint It, and like his models are gorgeous.
mm-hmm,
He's like such a technically proficient, like expert painter.
mm-hmm,
And if I was like, hey, I'm going to try and paint like this, I would be disappointed every time because I just can't do that. And I also know like how much effort and time it takes him to do that. And I don't have that patience either. So like there's just like there's nothing working in me that's going to, I cannot paint like him, but I can appreciate what he does. But if I try and do that, I'm just going to be upset.
right. I don't think anybody can paint like anybody else.
No.
Like that's the great thing about painters is we're all unique, and we're all coming to this hobby to be like, here's my unique piece. Do you like it? And everyone goes, yeah, that's amazing. Like, of course. And I'm very much in the active art, like the action of it is what is the thing that we need to focus more. Are you doing it? Are you expressing yourself? Is this true to yourself? That's what truly matters, and the end results will come as they may. Like, say for even, I'm going to bring a cooking analogy, that, and this has been done many times, that you can make desserts, right? And you can make 25 of something. If you make that each product perfect, it won't be as appealing as if it was to be like rustic or homemade or anything like that. People gravitate to seeing even like little imperfections between each one. You can still make it still visually appealing, but when people know that that's handmade, because you can't always replicate the same one, once they know that it's handmade, that's where they gravitate to. But if you like were to get brownies from Cisco and cut them into squares, like it's just not as good as if you saw like a homemade brownie cut into squares.
Well, and when you see like gourmet cooking
Mm-hmm.
that is like, that like taken to that extreme of perfection, like it's also like A, very wasteful, and
Mm.
B, it's like, to get the perfect piece, there's a lot of mistakes and trimmings and like, there's
And a lot of things that
of
go
wasted
into it.
effort. Yeah.
Right. You're talking about people with tweezers. You're talking about people just, that's a whole other science. But at the same, like, yes, that has its own beauty and its own market. But if every single restaurant was like that, it wouldn't
Be
precise.
$4
Yeah.
for supper, like,
Yeah. People,
and you wouldn't enjoy it.
exactly. That's why people still want to go to a pub and get that nice greasy burger.
Sometimes you just want simplicity.
Yep.
And that doesn't devalue one over the other.
Yeah.
Also, I'm realizing that if there's anyone out there, I'm starting to realize there's some tropes to our episodes, and if there's like Chaos Divided Bingo, I think Kaylee brings up a kitchen reference is definitely on there.
That should be smack down in the center because you know it's gonna be hit.
It's a giveaway.
We should do
yeah.
Chaos Divided Bingo.
Maybe
Fun.
if we get cool enough, at some point somebody will break a drinking game about us.
It doesn't have to be drinking.
I feel like a drinking game's cooler than bingo.
Oh, like a shot taken.
Yeah. Like every time Blushing Nosemarine says
That she
something
doesn't
about
like her paint
Slaanesh,
jobs.
yeah, take a shot. Like every time Snurgle talks about the garden, take a shot. Like
Yeah.
it could happen. And yeah, I think this is something I've actually like always kind of tried to focus on, is like letting the way you build the model also be part of telling the story.
Right.
Like the cultists I was talking about before, the way I position, like even just like positioning them on the base, because I find modern kits don't give you a lot of like give and take unless you want to get into kit bashing.
Yeah.
But even just like there's a few that are running, and I put them like they're not dead center on the base, they're like on an edge, so
Yeah.
it makes it look like they're actually running.
Oh yeah.
Like it looks like they're, which I feel like lines up more with like my Go Fast Slaanesh vibes. So like there's ways of kind of reinforcing like the way, like, you know, whether you pose like, you know, the guns pointed to the side versus pointing out, shows like a degree of like aggressiveness. You know, I one of my legionaries is like standing with like, you know, like in like a very like almost duelist stance with like both hands on their chainsword, and I like had to kind of cobble together some pieces to do that. But it's a way of like telling that story of like they're like an aspiring duelist. They're not just like, you know, they don't want to just be like a bolter boy that just like shoots at people. So like there's ways of like, even on like, without getting into kit bashing, like taking little liberties that'll like tell part of the story. Like realistically, your hobby starts with like with glue, not paint.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. Yeah. There's just glue, not paint.
Yeah. But even like the way you build them, the way like, you know, there's a very big difference between like, you know, like I think of there's a guardsman I have, and like I put it so like they're like trailing the gun along the ground, their last gun.
Right.
That looks very different than someone standing there like ready to shoot.
Yeah.
It's like he almost looks like dejected. Like he looks like he's given up.
I'm sure he has.
Well, he's just there to die at that point.
Yeah. But this
yeah,
kind of goes
like,
into like that discussion we had with Mike from Watch It Painted as well. Like he starts with the base. He thinks of like what the base is gonna look like and build from there, because that to him is what is important, because that's creating the story of like what's their environment.
Like part of the reason why my Emperor's Children are on snow bases is because I dry brush them with white to like give them that snowy effect, which also hides a lot of my like bad painting. So
See?
it's just one of those
bingo.
But it helps me hide some things. So but again, it also like, you know, by even just showing like how you dry brush that on conveys emotion. And like I'm very big on like a miniature looking like almost candid. Like I don't like the superposed, like if you think of like the way like a lot of like Space Marines get posed with kind of that like standing straight right
Gun
on the base,
out.
gun pointed up, like to the side, like ready to fire. Like that's a very like generic pose.
Right.
And there's like I try to avoid that like stationary look. I want everything to look like it's in the middle of doing something.
Yeah, because like even like the YouTube videos I've seen of Space Marines, like obviously the most famous Astartes, you don't see them in that stupid simple pose.
No.
You see them as badass poses, or like they're ready to go.
They're charging into battle. They're like they're
Yo.
ready. They're like bolt pistols out, and they've got the chain sword. And like that's how, you know, that's how I've tried to pose things. Is like they're doing something. They're not just like standing there.
Yeah.
Now there's sometimes limitations. Like I tried to do that with like the Blast Masters on Noise Marines, and there's no give to that resin, and
Mm.
they're stuck with the like stupid pointing the gun up in the air pose because I couldn't get them to go any other way.
Don't worry, Laura. When your codex comes out for Emperor's Children, you'll have new models.
In 15th edition, is that what we're?
No, it'd be 12th because like it's a
divisible by 6.
Yeah.
Oof. And yeah, talking about kit bashing, like I think even like very minor kit bashing can also really help that story.
Yeah.
Like
and like I was saying, like simply it could just be the base being kit bashed or whatever.
Like adding a helmet or like a discarded weapon, or like the example I put on here is like taking a pulse rifle and putting it on the base of like a Death Watch model is going to make them look more like they've been hunting Xenos than like just putting sand and grass.
Yep. And I'll just add like a little bit of a tip for this. One of the best ways to get these type of bits too is to play other opponents. And I've done this before, where you play an opponent and you play for bits. And yeah, so if you lose, you give your bit to someone and then they'll put it on a base of whatever hero they want to.
That's cool.
Yeah, we've done it a couple times.
That, you know, that's a good idea because like I don't know, I have a lot of bits of stuff that I will probably never use.
But I'm sure someone else would love that as like on their base or like their epic hero holding it in the air kind of thing.
It's true.
Especially if you like played a game and you lost to them, you're like, you deserve this bit.
I make all of the Space Marine helmets and all of the like Dead Space Marines on all of my bases and models Iron Hands, just to let them know where let them know they're on my list.
Is that from a certain listener?
That's you know what, it's lore appropriate, but even like Abaddon is he's standing on a Space Marine.
Yeah.
It's an Iron Warrior.
Of course.
My Abaddon is standing on an Iron Warrior. Or no, it's not an Iron Warrior, Iron Hand.
Yeah, Iron Hands, yeah.
Yeah. That was yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, those little bits can help tell that story of like it's just like it elevates it a little bit without necessarily being like, you know, we had Lawrence on, like that's kit bashing taken to the nth degree. This is just like little touches that like when somebody looks, they're like, oh, that's cool, and like it just makes it elevates it a little bit.
Well, even when he was on the podcast, I didn't even feel right calling it kit bashing.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
Like, kit masterpieces. I don't know. Like
it's the kit annihilation. I don't know. It's whatever is bigger than
domination.
Bashing. Yeah. Kit domination. That's there we go. And yeah, obviously, like, you know, I feel like I shouldn't even be saying this. It should be you saying it, but have fun with color. Like, enjoy. When you put color on something, it should like make you smile a little bit.
Yep, I love that.
You should feel like a little Picasso nerdling, just like with the biggest grin on your face, just like smacking your paintbrush on things.
100%, and like playing around with color too, like mixing colors together. If you mix too many colors, you'll make brown. I know that. But like, for example, and I know we've talked about it before, but there's definitely a lot new listeners that will probably be listening to it now. But when I first started, Blood God, who is my fiance, he would follow the exact directions that GW would give and never stray from that until I started painting and I was mixing colors, and it blew his mind. Like, he's just like, what are you doing? Just mixing colors. And and just to show like that's a possibility. Like, honestly, the more advanced you become, the less colors you need, because you can mix you can have 5 colors on your palettes, and that comes with like color theory and knowing how to mix your colors, and that comes with your blues, your reds, and your yellows, black and white. and you can make any color you want. Yes, it does take a lot longer to figure out the ratios and all that, but I actually learned that more when I started doing paint at night. I think that's what it's called. So even prior to painting miniatures, I would go out to bars and paint at night. And it was like you go to a bar, you get a canvas, you got a teacher up front, and you paint. You pick like before going, they would show you, oh, we're gonna paint this, and so I'd be like, oh, I want to paint that, and show up, and then you get to your palette, and it's literally those 5 colors. Sometimes there'd be like a little extra or less, and I'd sit there and be like, how am I gonna paint this with 5 colors? And then they showed like mixing it. I was like, oh, that is so cool. And so it's there is a lot to color theory, but you don't need to take it as a daunting task.
No, but even being aware of it, and like, you know, if you do want to play with color more, like even just having a color wheel, or like, you know,
just makes it easier.
Online, just like to know like what are your contrasts, what are your complementary colors, just like it's gonna help guide you more.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at something, you're like, hey, why does what I did look like weird?
Mm-hmm.
It's because everything else in your life is like adheres to this color theory.
100%.
So like, if you wanted to kind of have that aesthetic look that you're used to, just following some of that is gonna like get you so much further.
Like your eyes do play tricks on you, and then they calculate. And they will calculate the color combinations and give signals to your brain and be like, that's not right. And you'll look at it and be like, there's something wrong with this image. I can't quite pinpoint. I'm just gonna look away. And that's usually because of color, or, for example, green and red. Everybody will instantly think Christmas.
Yeah.
So even
if you're
seeing like those color patterns, I guess.
Yeah. But even realizing like if you want to do, say, like a blue miniature with red trim, that red is gonna look a little purple.
Yeah.
Because your eye is gonna like be trained on that blue, and it's not gonna necessarily see the distinctiveness of the red unless you go with a very vibrant red.
Yeah.
And even then, your eye will still somewhat trick you a little bit and like apply a bit of the blue around it to your perception of the red.
Yeah. And then you could even go even deeper with color theory when you start talking about tones and warmth and cold, and it's very interesting. I think spending 30 minutes on YouTube and just kind of research it, I think I find it entertaining. I find it interesting. So.
Yeah, if you want to hear a funny story about tones, my wife's an esthetician.
Okay.
When she was in school, you know, you learn about like how to match like colors to skin tones.
Yes.
My skin color is very red.
Yeah.
But I am cool toned, which is like almost it's like technically impossible, because like red is a warm color.
Yeah.
So it's just like my complexion is like actually like it's like an impossibility. Like it just like doesn't work. Which is part of why like, I don't know, if you see me in person, I like look strange because it's like blue and red happening simultaneously. But I don't look purple. So yeah.
So you are an Emperor's Children at heart.
Yeah. It's cool tone, cacophony of color. And yeah, so like to talk about like why tone matters, like it affects the perception of those colors.
Yep.
So like you can have something that is yellow, but a cool yellow looks very different than a warm yellow.
But at the end of the day, I will always tell people, and I still even do it for myself, like I don't refer to a color wheel, but I will always say, if you like it, do it.
Absolutely.
So you don't need a formula. You don't need someone to tell you what the colors are. If you like it, just go for it. because that's what matters most in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah, when we talk about the color wheel and the color theory, it's like if you're looking at something and it doesn't look right, that can be a way to like guide you. But if you like that it looks like clashing or like contrary or weird, embrace that. Embrace the weird.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, use it as a guideline. That's all it is. It's a guideline. It's not the answer.
I'm also going to maybe say something that could be considered controversial. If you're looking at, bringing an army out of the table and you're not confident about your painting to a battle-ready standard and waiting until you feel more confident to paint further is totally valid.
Not controversial whatsoever. I think that's the best advice to give.
No, but when you go on social media, you go on YouTube, it's a lot of people painting something to like a level of perfection.
Yeah.
They're completing their projects. It's okay to leave your army like half painted because you don't feel like you can go the rest of the distance yet.
Right.
It's like Warhammer's expensive. And like you don't want to like be feeling like you need to paint it to like the nth degree and then feel like you need to strip it 6 months later because you're like you figured out a bunch of stuff in that time period. Like it's okay to like get some paint on it to put it on the table and then come back later and be like, you know what, I can go further now.
Exactly. And a lot of those like YouTubers as well, they've done their 10,000 hours of painting. They've done their some of them have like photography backgrounds or other art backgrounds, and they've done their work to get there. Whereas if you are someone who casually plays and you feel like, well, I'm not a painter, slapping the color on is no problem whatsoever. But honestly, like obviously paint what you want, and if you get to the table and someone doesn't like your simple painting scheme, then they're not worth playing 3 hours with.
That's true.
If it's someone for that, not worth your time.
What is the standard for battle ready? Like 3 different paints?
Yep, and then like a textured base. That's it.
Yeah. Like if somebody's gonna be like, oh, you don't get the battle ready point, like again.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time.
Now I'll say something controversial. I don't like when people come to the table with plastic and say, you can give me the painted points or not. It's not... I've had that a couple times, and it's just like, you're really gonna put it on me to give you points or not, and if I don't, you're gonna make me feel like shit because you obviously don't deserve them. But if I do, then I'm gonna feel like shit if I lose or you continue on because you've put the whole situation on my shoulders.
No, in like a casual setting, like I don't care if somebody has spray.
No, I'm talking about I've had this in like RTTs or GTs.
Yeah, and I mean realistically, like the TO should have like been like, hey, this person is not battle ready.
Yeah, or if it stated like obviously in the like our first GT it said painted points not applied. Of course, I am totally for that. Yeah. I love that. I love that people, as a new addition, kind of feel your toes in it. But if you're going to an RTT with plastic, not even primed miniatures, and you want to like kind of tell me like you can give me painted points or not, don't put me in that situation, please.
Right.
And don't put anyone else in that situation. Like that's not a good way to conduct yourself.
Did you give them the points?
Hell no.
Good.
I'm a stickler for points because like, and I know when the points came out, Garo, I had some controversy takes on it because there was some people that were like completely opposed to it, and I get that if you're not wanting to be like, if you don't want to paint, but at the same time. It is in the rules. They are points. They're hard written rules, and it just makes for a better gaming experience when they're painted. And
I will say I was definitely someone who like was more comfortable with gray plastic before coming like and the whole battle ready points kind of forced me to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I find it's easier to play with painted models.
Yes.
Because you can make them visually distinct. You can...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's easier to notice details on them. It's easier to tell, if you're looking at a sea of gray plastic and be like, oh, where's the one with the special weapon? Like, it's almost impossible. Whereas, like, I don't know, if you make a flamer have a giant red canister on the top of it, then it's very easy to tell that it's a flamer. Like,
and it's not only just for your benefit, but it's for your opponent's benefit as well.
Yes.
Because you can easily distinct the colors and be like, my purple squad over there has this, and my pink squad over there has that.
Yeah. So no, there's a lot of benefits to having, paint on your models. And no, that's terrible that somebody's just like, you decide.
Yeah.
Do I get these 10 points? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
if anything,
if you're gonna do
come
that,
to the table and you come to the table and you say, I know I don't deserve these painted points. Don't give them to me.
Yeah. Give them to me if you feel generous.
Yeah.
You're like, well, no. No, thank you.
No. I'm quick. I'm not that easily, like, persuaded that way. Nah. You can't do that magic on me.
You come to the table against Nurgle Snurgle with an unpainted army.
You ain't getting those 10 points. You know exactly what you're coming to the table for.
You ain't battle ready.
And I always took it as, like, I, too, am also putting the work, like, and I'm talking about, like, everybody that does it. You are also putting the work into getting these models done. Like, many people will relate to the 3 a.m. painting before a GT. I guarantee it. And I've been there. And I know people have been there. And you look at the clock and you're like, damn, I gotta get up in 4 hours. But I got it painted.
I want a nice full rest.
Oh, I'm like that now.
GT. I'm an old lady. Can't handle it.
I'll be going tomorrow to get my fruit snacks and my vegetables. And I'll get a nice sleep. But that's more because, like, I feel comfortable with the rules and I feel more comfortable in the gaming community.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, like, the point of all this is, like, to have fun with painting, not worrying about other people, not comparing yourself to other people, like, finding your specific style that, like, appeals to you, that you have fun with. Like, the hobby part of this, like, and there's people out there that really like the lore, they really like the game, and the hobby, like, intimidates them. It just, it's a valuable part of the experience.
Right.
And learning to enjoy it, like, if you're somebody who plays Warhammer and the hobbying element is, like, a chore for you, like, you're probably never going to get to the point, like, maybe not probably, but you might never get to the point where, like, you love hobbying. But if you embrace that,
you're not
like,
expected to love it either, like.
Yeah. But you can maybe help yourself out a little bit and, like, get to a point where there's some joy there.
Well, we started this whole podcast talking about pillars, and the main three to this whole community is lore, is hobbying, and gaming. And they all coincide with each other as well. It's just like, you may be more into lore than the hobbying, but they all hold up together the community.
It's true. Warhammer doesn't exist as it currently is without all three.
Exactly.
And I think that's really where, like, Battle Ready comes from, is kind of like all those people who are players. It kind of pushes them to deal with the hobby.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe learn, what?
A little lore, a little, like, why is it blue?
Why do Space Marines have red helmets sometimes?
Yeah. Oh, I like to do red Space Marines. What kind of red Space Marines? Oh, there's Blood Angels? What are the Blood Angels? Oh, Sanguinius was their Primarch? Oh, why is Sanguinius dead? Oh. And then
Who's the Death Company? Why do they have Thunderhammers? It's true. That's how you like get sucked in.
And we're so sucked in.
It's true. And yet, every time we like bring somebody on to the show, I feel like I'm like less sucked in than other people. I'm like, damn, you're further in.
Yeah.
But there's just and there's
you've
so
been
much
playing for how long too, right? So I feel like a baby in this community.
See, I didn't play a lot of editions though. Like I like
but you
skipped
know
over them.
of it, and
yeah,
and people have always, or a lot of people have like their first mini when they were in their teenagers, or knew of it. I feel like only knowing it within like the last couple of years, I feel like a youngin'.
You know what? I don't think I've actually shared it on Instagram. You've seen it, my first painted mini. But
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually shared it. Maybe I'll do that.
Do it.
my little gold crisis suit. My little baby.
That's your first step.
It was. And it was hard. That was probably like, that was me being like, I'm going to be like a very technical painter. I'm going to be like very precise, and then very quickly realizing I had no idea what I was doing.
the want and the results are very different.
Exactly. And you know what? Part of it's like aligning the want and the like, the ability. Like I think
that's where you find your style.
Yeah, is like find the thing you like, but that you can also do.
Yeah. For sure. Because, like, obviously, I want to be a Sergio. I want to be a Maverick. I want to be, like, that type of style. It just won't happen because I can never be like them, and I'm still on my journey to find my way.
You know how, like, okay, if I could, what's his name? Xerxes, the Alpha Legion guy?
Yeah.
If, like, I love the lore of the Alpha Legion. Like, if I were to have a second CSM army, it would be Alpha Legion.
Yeah.
And if I could paint like that, I probably would have done Alpha Legion over Emperor's Children, just because like that is so cool, and I will never be able to do that, but it's so cool.
Laura, you need to get that out of your head of the never. Don't ever say never.
I mean, like, I can never paint like the way he paints. That's
why not? You know what? I would always say the same about myself as well until I try it. That's all it takes.
When I look at a legionary, I see more than one thing. Mm-hmm. I can't tell which one I'm painting. Mm-hmm. Like the like intricate lines of like the camouflage. No, I know my skills.
Try it. Just try it. Because I did do it. I did do an Emperor's Children one. I did the transition, and it was a Alpha Legion into Emperor's Children.
Oh, was it fun?
It was a lot of fun, and I obviously I went into thinking like, I'll never do this. Like I can't be like him, but the person that wanted wanted it, and I was like, you know what? I'll try it. I'll see if I can do it, and then got those results. I think it looks pretty good. Obviously, I could be like, oh, I could be better and all this, but I still tried it.
Maybe someday.
You can do it.
Maybe I'll get there.
I believe in Laura.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we've been having some long episodes. I feel like we should be kind and have like a short episode this week.
Yes.
And yeah, I guess to maybe talk a little bit about what else we have going on. There's a GT coming up this weekend.
Yes.
So if you're on our Patreon, we'll be sharing our thoughts from our second GT as a bonus episode this month.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get our spicy hot takes. But if you are attending that GT, well, this will come out after, so it doesn't matter. I hope you had fun.
Yeah. You know what I'm also excited about the GT is there's going to be other games too. There's going to be Infinity, Blood Bowl.
I've actually never seen Blood Bowl played.
I'm super excited to see that.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that.
I'm excited to see if there's even like a Blood Bowl community here. So there must be if it's part of this GT.
That's awesome.
And there's
Blood Bowl
Marvel
super
Crisis.
cool.
Protocol. So yeah, there's like other elements to this GT besides Warhammer 40k. So very excited for that.
Here for it. And yeah, if you're attending HalCon, we'll be presenting. And Nurgle will be presenting all the time because they're gonna work her to the bone.
I'll be downstairs. Well, I'm working myself to the bone, but I'll be downstairs like probably majority of the time. I'm gonna have to go outside and see sun sometime.
Just take a sun break. Be like, I'm not here to smoke, guys. I just need to like feel some ultraviolet radiation.
Yeah. And then what are we doing the weekend after that?
I believe we're jumping on a plane.
Oh, where are we going?
Where
where in the world is Chaos Divided?
Who are those folks out in Vancouver? You might have heard of them. I think
it's like Tabletop Play or
Play on Tabletop, maybe?
I think you're right. You said Play on Tabletop? Or?
Play on Tabletop, I think.
I think I've heard that name. In the on the YouTubes.
On the YouTube. And if you're not tired of listening to my voice, I actually did a guest spot on the Grimdark History podcast, the first episode of which is out already. Talking about some history, talking about who the Emperor could have been.
I think that would be perfect material to listen to while you're painting.
I may have said that Donald Trump could be the Emperor, so you can at me if you'd like to.
Oh my god.
Can
you imagine?
It'd
be huge. Or whatever Trump says. Huge.
It'll be the best Imperium anyone has ever seen. I'll build Space Marines. No one has ever had such beautiful Space Marines as my Space Marines. I'll have Primarchs. I'll have 20 of them.
No,
don't even worry.
I mean, 21.
I mean, 18. I saw a meme recently. It was like the setup for this. Do you want to be a millionaire? And it was like how many? It was a guardsman standing there, and it was like how many Primarchs are there? And it was like 18, 19, 20, or 21, and then the other.
And his eyes were just
it was just an Inquisitor holding a bolt pistol.
Yeah, that's
what's the right answer?
Meme.
It was like all the answers here are right.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. But yeah, I hope you check that out. So that's Grimdark History, and anything else before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Just go out there, add color to the world.
Add more for the garden.
Add more for the garden. Your garden, our garden.
Me garden, a Sue garden.
Yes.
Wow. In the meantime, thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided, both where you're listening from and on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40k. And you can find us both on social media at Nurgle_Snurgle and at Blushing Noise Marine. And we hope you'll check out our Patreon. If you're a fan of what we do and want to support us, you can find the link in the episode description. And until next time, bye-bye.
Ciao for now.